I didn't expect to be making this video, but today we're going to be talking about The Cycle Frontier, a game with strong Escape from Tarkov influences that has received a lot of attention recently and that I think has great potential for any current Tarkov players. So stick around and let's talk about it. Alright, so straight up, is this game a Tarkov killer? In my personal opinion, that is a firm no, but the reason that The Cycle has caught my attention is that there is enough inspiration taken from Tarkov to keep it interesting conceptually, but the game is radically different in other ways, which means that you can easily take pleasure from both on their own merits. How does The Cycle work? Playing out primarily like Apex Legends and Tarkov's glorious love child, and set in a future sci-fi universe, you begin in the Prospect Station, which is a space station in orbit around Fortuna 3, the planet on which all the action takes place. Your character is a prospector who has arrived to seek out the riches down on the planet's surface, which was inhabited at one point, but since the large storms have arrived, have left Fortuna uninhabitable to humans. Gaps in the storm allow prospectors to travel down to the surface for a period of time, to gather resources, fight the native creatures on the planet, and also to inevitably clash with other prospectors as the fight to cash in and survive intensifies. This is where the similarities to Escape from Tarkov are the most obvious. The PvPvE nature of the game, as described by the devs, mirrors Tarkov broadly, where the scavs are replaced with alien creatures, and as usual you're fighting against other players too. Although there are some mega monsters in the game, equivalent I suppose to bosses in Tarkov, the standard creatures are not too difficult to deal with after a little practice, and serve more as an inconvenience, mainly by potentially giving your position away to other players when you shoot them with your weapons. This reminds me strongly of DayZ 2, where zombies are more of a threat with how they give the player away than a direct problem in and of themselves. Death results in the loss of all your equipment, again very much in the Tarkov style, and there is an insurance system for gear where you get back nothing items wise, but receive 2.5 times the value of your kit as credits when you die. The ramifications of this are great for newer players, but as we will touch on later, this is quite different to Tarkov in some important ways. There are 3 factions equivalent to the traders in EFT who give out quests. As you buy and sell from them and complete tasks, you gain faction reputation, which allows you to access their higher tier weaponry. There is also a hideout system where you can upgrade your stash space, secure container size, amongst other perks, and also has income generators analogous to the Bitcoin farm, although nowhere near as potent as in Tarkov given they are accessible right at the start of the game. Before raid or deployment, you'll choose a loadout where a basic kit would look broadly like a weapon, some ammo for it, basic armor, a backpack, and some healing items. Note, you also have a secure container, but at the beginning it's very small and can hardly fit anything in at all. There is a weapons modification system, but it is more along the lines of Apex or PUBG than Tarkov. This is one place that EFT will always shine in my view, as I highly doubt that any other studio would ever go to the effort of meticulously replicating modern day firearms like Battlestate have. After entering the deployment, you do pretty much all of the same things as in EFT, loot stuff and kill AI and players before finding an extract. Here's where the differences to EFT start to kick in, however. One of the first things you'll notice when deploying into the cycle is that the loading, matching and waiting time is basically non-existent. This is honestly fantastic and feels so good after years of playing Tarkov and PUBG and even Dota 2. The beauty here is that the sessions on the planet are open, with players dropping in and extracting all the time. See, that's super cool. That is super cool. I've heard that this is 20 players at any one time, and each session is open for 6 hours before the storm ends it, but I haven't seen that confirmed myself. However, either way, this basically means that there is no real loading time because there is no matchmaking required. One thing that I would note here is that as annoying as the matching time is in EFT, it does add to the feeling of investment into each raid. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that this is a good thing, but a more interesting consequence of being able to load back into the match almost instantly. In Tarkov, dying really sucks, as much for the time wasted returning to the lobby, re-gearing and rematching as the rubles that you lose. When you arrive on the planet, which is a random starting location, you have a number of extracts that are marked on your map to start with. These change each time you play and involve calling down a dropship to come and pick you up. For me, these were some of the most stressful parts of gameplay in the cycle. Because player extracts are potentially all over the place, I think it's unlikely that an extract camping meta would be possible. However, when you call down the dropship, it is super obvious and you have to wait around for just under a minute for it to land and then another 20 seconds inside before it takes off. This makes you super vulnerable to anyone in the area that decides that taking your stuff would be a good idea, although if the ship leaves you can always call down another one in the same spot with no penalty other than the wait time again, so it's not the end of the world if you are forced to abandon your planned escape. After a successful raid, with your bag hopefully full of goodies, you can use those items to either fulfill contracts, sell to the factions, upgrade your hideout, or for crafting. This final part is what makes the cycle a really interesting one for Tarkov players to at least see how this ends up, because crafting in this game is of great importance for the endgame. With no concept equivalent to the flea market, at least not at the moment, you have to personally find everything that you will use to craft, upgrade and finish tasks with. Those in favour of deleting the flea market entirely in EFT will be very happy with this, as it means that money is of significantly lower value in the cycle. You can buy basic weapons and attachments and even some decent weapons at higher trader levels, but access to high-end gear and especially armour is only available via crafts. This means that even high-level players need to continue to loot the specific items required to make the mods and equipment that they want, and also they need to spend time crafting those items too, which in theory resolves the problem of the equivalent of cycle chads from always having the best gear in every deployment like it is in Tarkov. Another consequence is that the insurance system is nowhere near as valuable as in EFT, as you only get credits back rather than the items themselves, which doesn't really help if you're bringing in higher tier stuff frequently because you can't buy it anyway. Gear is graded in the Apex Legends style of common, uncommon, rare, epic and legendary, and you can bet that the top items in each category are only available using the hardest to find materials on the crafting station. In terms of squadding up, you can play the game in up to groups of 3, although I've played all solo so far. The time to kill is clearly not as low as in EFT, but it didn't feel as high as something like Apex Legends to me, which is my personal preference. Given that you can be playing on your own against squads like in Tarkov, but with much lower downside given that there are HUDs and ally indicators, this can make solo play potentially harder, as it's quite difficult to take down a group of 3 opponents by yourself, given each will take quite a few more bullets than it would take in Tarkov. The flip side of this is that there are far less instant death from nowhere type deaths, and a greater opportunity to simply run away and escape if you're not interested in PvP at that moment. How this will scale into the later game is not yet totally clear, as the relative power of weapons and armours when pitted against each other will be the deciding factor. I have seen frequent early complaint regarding the player movement. Honestly, I actually quite like it the way it is. People are saying that it's too slow, and maybe strafing could be sped up a little bit, but I like that you have to manage your stamina and can be caught out if pushing it too hard because the walk speed is fairly slow. As far as I'm concerned, the maps are traversable pretty quickly, especially compared to something like the run from resort to tunnel on shoreline, and to me this makes the gameplay a little more tactical rather than a straight up crosshair placement competition. To finish it all off, the OST has a cracking vibe to it, giving me StarCraft 2 and the show Firefly flashbacks in all of the right ways. The way the environment is cultivated feels immersive, and even the home base fits right into the game's overall design, which has definitely helped to draw me into this world right from the word go. Ultimately, if you get a chance to check it out, I think it's well worth a shot. After playing Tarkov for a few years post the Battle Royales, extraction style games where you appear in a match already kitted with the stuff you want without having the 10-minute searching for items stage is really nice, so to pick up a new one that has promise is awesome. This could end up being a fantastic game given the right development and ideas, and certainly one to watch out for as it progresses. We've been waiting for a proper EFT competitor for a long time, and with a few false starts on other potential games, maybe the Cycle Frontier was the one that we never knew we wanted all along.